Pisces 23, Spiritist phenomena. A Spiritist was a medium, or sensitive, they're called. They used to sit around tables, perhaps looking to a crystal ball and light incense and candles, and they would move into something of a trance state and tune in to see whether they could engage with disembodied spirits, many of whom had just passed over, and their clients would come and they would try and open a channel of communication with Aunt Mary or Uncle Bob and get some comfort from that process. Now, many of these people were charlatans. They had techniques for making it look like they were talking to the dead, but some of them were not. It's extraordinarily, this technique actually can be made to work, and I know this from personal experience. I went to a séance when I was a businessman, of all things, with a great deal of skepticism, and I had my mind changed in a moment when I saw what was going on. It was real. Now, whether or not the communications can be trusted is what we're discussing here in this Pisces 23. If we go to any guide now, and it's not just a spiritist that we're talking about, or a spiritualist, or anyone that we go to, a counselor, an astrologer, anyone we go to ask for advice when we're feeling emotionally vulnerable, that brings us into a level of, it's a dangerous level of trust that we're in. Because we want something, we've got an agenda, we need to have some reassurance or guidance or whatever, and that puts us into a vulnerable position. And we go to them because we can't deal with it ourselves, and so we're in this sort of state of looking up to the teacher or the spiritualist. And sometimes it's valid, but mostly it's better to trust your own intuition than someone else's. So the warning here is that there's a lot of charlatans in the world, and when somebody goes to, let's say, an astrologer, good example, and the astrologer says, oh, you will never marry because you've got Pluto in the so-and-so house or whatever, it's nonsense. It's worse than nonsense. It's black magic. And this is not a rare event. I've actually seen this happen more often than I would like to say. You have to be very careful whom you consult. And you have to be very careful, even if you consult a reputable or decent kind of person, that what they say to you is valid right now, that they're in tune. Because some trance mediums can be right on target sometimes, but not always. Some astrologers are like that. You can actually, if you look carefully, you can get a sense of when the astrologer is in the flow and speaking words that are really touching your heart, really fascinating your mind. They get to you. And there are other times when they're not. Their approach, their tone of voice, their inability to relate to you deeply is evidence that they're just not at that time tuning in. And they might not know. They probably wouldn't want to admit it, even if they did know. So this Pisces 23, you have to let go of your expectation of the goodness of the world sometimes. The idea that the world is a good place is a good idea, but you need to protect yourself for the moments when that's wrong. It's not a useful idea. We have to affirm that we can trust the world, or we end up to be cynics and skeptics, and that's a debilitating condition of the heart. It engenders fear, and the protection of fear rather than the protection of love. So we cannot be constantly fearful that we're under attack from charlatans and so on. But nevertheless, if we're openly trusting, we're going to get taken at times. So that sense of being able to open and be trusting for a while, until you can get a sense that this is not quite right. Something's wrong here. I smell a rat. Something's fishy. Something's wrong, you know. You must trust that. If something doesn't feel right, then it's wrong. There are 3 conditions in any situation. You say no, you say yes, or you say maybe. Well, here's a clue. Maybe means no. The body says yes when yes is the appropriate answer, and the body says maybe or no when it's not a good idea. So if you sort of get a sense that somebody's putting one over on you, somebody doesn't know what they're talking about, somebody's actually playing a game with you, then they probably are. They may not know that they are, they may not intend that to be the case, but they're not to be trusted. So be careful whom you trust. And even if you trust somebody, check out their words before making any important decisions. It's wrong to trust somebody else's intuition. You have to develop your own.